Allow me to extend a warm welcome to all the viewers on the internet and around the world. It is sunrise on YouTube, morning on Facebook, noon on Twitter, midday on Threads, afternoon on Twitch, sunset on Instagram, and evening on Rumble. I am your host, the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts. We are broadcasting live directly from the sanctum of solitude and the citadel at the end of time. Good evening, everyone. I am the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains the master of the deceptive arts, and I return to you once again as the uncommitted voice of the vasectomites. And today I wanted to talk about promises and why keeping promises is important. But of course, I'm not talking about promises or keeping the promises that you make to other people, especially these knee benders and these counterparts who you can't trust anyway. No, I'm not talking about those kinds of promises. You would be silly. You would be silly to trust these people, right? Or anything that they say, these knee benders and these counterparts. No, that's not what we're talking about. Rather, I'm talking about keeping the promises that you make to yourself and staying true to your own self-declarations and being loyal to the vows that you make to yourself. And what brought this on today is a moment that I had, a brief epiphany in what was otherwise a very long and busy day, but I had a moment to myself to get off my feet for one and to ponder the reality that I'm in. Not to begrudge the reality, but rather to just look at it for what it really is. And I then came to think about, the promise that I'd made to myself many, many, many years ago. And that was the promise to never date or be in another relationship again. Now, you might be inclined to believe that I had made that decision having come out of the romance wars after a terrible breakup, a heartbreak, financial losses. Not to say that none of those things didn't exist one way or the other, but this promise was made long ago, even before the romance war, and I might have mentioned it. It's a promise that I made to myself in the last romance wars. I made a video about being in the zone a while back. Could have been yesterday, could have been the day before, it could have been a long time ago. To be honest with you, I'm pumping out so much of these videos. I don't really care. I don't really care when the information comes out, right? But I made a video a few days ago about being in the zone. And I remember the last relationship that I was actually in and made a commitment in. I had actually come out of the zone. And I had actually been on an international trip, which I met a counterpart. We had similar backgrounds and blah, 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 worldviews and such and such and such. But I had come out of a long period in the zone, something like 6 or 7 months, 5 to 6 months maybe, a very long time in the zone. I even lost track about how long I was. But when I came out, one of the things that I had desired was a meaningful, deep relationship. But I had underestimated the fact that not everyone had been in the zone with me. People had been dating and living, and the counterpart was dating too. And for some reason, we negotiated a situation that ended up in a commitment. But I was conflicted at the time. I had desires, male desires, that I wanted to satisfy and hadn't had the opportunity to do so in a long time. But I also had the clear headedness, the wherewithal, the insight, to know that I didn't want to get anyone pregnant. I didn't need the issues of dealing with multiple partners and getting multiple partners pregnant. You get one pregnant, and then the other one wants to get pregnant too, right? So I didn't need those problems. I really didn't need those problems. But I also had enjoyed a tremendous amount of fruitfulness from being in the zone. What some people might call monk mode. I'm just gonna go back to calling it the zone. I actually still call it the zone to myself. I only call it monk mode when I'm making these videos, and it feels unnatural. So I'm just gonna stop using that. Not only that, I think it's somebody else's phrase, monk mode. I'm not using other people's words, man. It's just not who I am. I have my own words. I have an infinite supply of words. If you haven't noticed now, I have an infinite supply of words. I don't need to repeat anyone or anything that anyone has said or will say. I'll find my own way. So I had come out of the zone, right? Having had no intimacy, having just been focused and killing it, looking great, feeling great, and wanting to explore that. But I realize now that the counterpart had actually come out of a relationship that may have been years, right? So, indeed, we were probably coming into this thing from different points of view. But one thing that I remember saying out loud, and I made a promise to myself, it may have been the Bachelor Supreme within me, the ancient one, desiring to come out and express himself finally, as he does today. But whatever it was, I made a promise and I said to the counterpart, listen, I'm willing to do what is necessary or deemed necessary for this thing to succeed, for us to thrive, for us to make it work, for us to survive as individuals, to thrive as individuals as well as a unit, right? If we can form, I said, something more than a relationship, a genuine partnership where your interests are my interests and my interests are your interests, because I'm really not interested in having a big posse, a big crew of people, surrounded by friends and their friends and acquaintances, networking, whatever that nonsense is. By the way, for you networkers, you're all networking with losers. 1% of the world owns 90% of the money. So if you're not networking with the 1%, you're just networking with losers. But still, I said to the counterpart, this was it. This was it. And indeed, I believe I held up my end of that situation to my own frustration, where even now I discuss, I capitulated a lot for many reasons. One of those being the fear of getting somebody pregnant, the talkophobia, the fear of getting a woman pregnant. But I made that promise to myself before going into the romance wars. I think it's one thing to make that kind of promise to yourself when you're down and out. But I made that promise to myself, having come out of monk mode, having saved money, having been traveling the world, right? And having the opportunity to date somebody who, quite frankly, was young enough to date, right? under what seemed very positive circumstances. And indeed it was. But it was looking around these circumstances, imagining a bachelor's life under these circumstances, and thinking, man, wouldn't that be great? But then simultaneously understanding the risks: insemination, pregnancy, child support for 18 years, child raising for 21 years, alimony for life, lawyer fees, and the risk of imprisonment should you not pay for any of these ills, right? Knowing these things, I said to myself, I'm not gonna play this game foolishly. I'm not gonna spread myself around unnecessarily. But I'm also not gonna go beyond what I want or what I'm comfortable with or what I'm hoping to achieve. If it doesn't work, I'm not doubling down. I'm not doubling down on this nonsense, right? Especially now that I just come out of months of monk mode and I've seen the good of that. And I still have this hope, right? That maybe a good relationship was bound, you know. And while I held fast to my promise to myself, I must admit that to a certain point, I have been in two minds about it, or even three minds. I have mentioned to you before that even even as a devoted bachelor for life and an evolved vasectomite, by the way, freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. Freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. That's how you become a vasectomite. There's only one way. There's only one way to join this club, and you have to evolve biologically, right? This is not a financial club. It's not a club of height or skill or education. You don't need none of that. You need one thing, and you can actually get it for free. You need to freeze your sperm so you still have all your reproductive options and get a vasectomy. This is the root, the foundation of this platform, and everything flows through our vasectomy. Indeed, it does, right? But even as an evolved vasectomite, I still have the inclination, or was it perhaps an instinct, an itch that was right there in the back of my mind that I couldn't reach, I couldn't scratch, right? An instinct, right? Some lingering effects of an unknown, unexpected, unquantified part of my social conditioning that existed within me, somewhere in my memory bank, in my memory palace, a corner where there's a rug. At the bottom of the rug, you gotta open it up, and there's a small something under the rug, and in there lies filth. And you gotta find it and clean it out, right? But there's something there, you know. There was a moment I thought perhaps it was some kind of survivor's guilt. I couldn't put my finger on it. Survivor's guilt is like being a vasectomite and watching these men flounder and bend the knee and ruin their lives, and just knowing that you could help them, but then they are so into the process that they look at your help as an insult and as attack, that you risk your own life in trying to help. And then they come back, then they come back singing the same old song. Oh, child support is not fair. Oh, the laws are written against us. Oh, divorce is the worst thing that ever happened to me. Like, yeah, we all knew that. We all knew that would be the case, right? I thought it was that. For a moment, I doubted it. You know, for a while, I've even made videos trying to figure out the purpose of intimacy, even though I know what the purpose is. And I'd been making these videos trying to see what is the purpose of this, what is happening. And what I was really doing was going deeper into myself, past the mirrors, the slides, past the pictures, the graphics, the articles, the words, the meanings, down to the innermost fundamental part of myself, right? Past the bachelor life, the vasectomy life, back further than the first date, the first crush, the first breakup, the first wet dream, back. You gotta go all the way back to find out what truly is this instinct. And once you've defined it, once you have attained it, how do you define it so that you can express it to others in a way that they themselves can understand and analyze it, right? And even dissect it for themselves and try and find new and different ways of looking at it. But you need to know what the it is. You need to know what the it is, right? And I have entertained this instinct, perhaps too much, but that's the kind of person that I am. I want to be thorough, right? I want to be concise and accurate, right? Before I even take the first move. Sun Tzu says, he will win who makes more calculations. The general who wins a battle makes many calculations before the battle is won, whereas he who loses makes few calculations. How much more? No calculations at all. So I entertained the thought, and I came to the understanding that it's more than just physical desire. It's more than intimacy. It's more than just your biological instinct to procreate and reproduce. It is the desire for companionship. And I came upon this conclusion as I was pondering this thing once more and as I was writing it. The minute I wrote it, it was the moment that I knew what it was: companionship. And despite what I say about things like companionship, right, there is a pleasure in having hope. There is a delight in salivating into these types of delusions of companionship. There is an amusement in the infinity of possibilities when it comes to allowing yourself to dream impossible dreams. Dreams that so many wish will become a possible outcome. And of course, you're completely wrong, right? There is a culminating finality to accepting reality for the sober, solemn, and sensible and grounding anchor that reality is. And there's a reason why people have the proverb. They'll say that you crash, or one crashes down to reality. And you crash from the inebriation, the intoxication, the high of self-delusion. And to acquire that high is far too easy. You just sit down and let your mind wander into nonsense. And one of those things that people wish for, that they desire for, that they dream about, right? That they don't, that they keep away rather from reality, is the desire for companionship. And part of the desire for companionship is the desire to be thought about, is the desire to be considered, to not just be considered as a man, as a woman, as a knee bender or as a counterpart, but to consider it as something that is, to be thought about as something that can be, an entity that can exist as it is in and of itself without alteration and still achieve acceptance. To be a person, even a loser, to be thought of as a winner, an enemy, a friend, a knee bender, a counterpart, an ex, a husband, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a something, a defined, an adjective of some kind that fits within a description of you. A something to someone who feels something one way or the other towards you, good, bad, positive, anything other than to be considered null and void, anything other than to be considered ignorable, inconsequential, insignificant. It's almost as if to say, when you have companionship, it's almost as if companion says, I acknowledge you, your presence, and the value of your existence as it is in and of itself, but also as it corresponds and coincides with my own existence. We exist together. Whether that is in failure, in divorce, in breakups, in financial loss, to still be mentioned is to be verbally acknowledged. You've seen people that will still argue with their ex and you just don't get why. Because that ex can not only acknowledge them, but they can also validate their past, their struggles, their difficulties. You've seen people sit and talk about something that happened years ago that has no consequence to now, other than the fact that they remember it and still have feelings about it. You seen that? And being alone and away from this type of companionship, right? That it brings the opposite sensation. It means that no one might ever acknowledge you or your existence or your significance or your value, even for however long you stay on this earth. As a person who, like all other people, has and still has rather and has had in his past people who want to celebrate you in his life. I've had people who cared for me, right? And who loved me, or at least proclaim that they do. If you are one of these people who has had people in your personal life, you know that a celebration is not a celebration by itself, by yourself rather. Birthday parties are best celebrated with others, right? Whether it's your birthday party or somebody else's birthday party, right? You want to be part of the occasions. Weddings is best celebrated with others. Special religious holidays best celebrated with others, right? The list of things is endless. The list of things is endless, right? And all these things are indeed best celebrated with others. Otherwise, they are just not worth celebrating at all to some people. This includes things like graduations, anniversaries, things like Valentine's Day, and other special occasions. You might want someone there to celebrate you as you are, right? As they may want you to celebrate them. It's not only about acknowledging, but it's also reciprocal. This delusion, this delusion may very well be the single most intuitive survival instinct that we have. One that is passed on, then that is inherited, right? Passed on to us through our caregivers before we even know we have it. And that is the instinct of dependency, right? Companionship has to stem and come from the instinct of dependency. And you don't even know that you are dependent or raised or trained to be dependent because it happens to you before you are even born. We are born dependents. And our parents, our guardians, our caregivers, they know this. They know this before we even arrive on this earth. So what do? They prepare for our coming. They anticipate our ignorance. They anticipate our oblivion to this world. They anticipate our dependency, and before we even know what food is and why we even need it, we already know where we can get the food and from whom we can get it from. Thereby acknowledging the significance of the other person in our lives by going to them and needing food, and they acknowledge the significance that we have in their lives by giving it to us every single time. And every time we need it and every time we want it. This is literally dependency. You know you gotta go to this person to eat and they feed you. You know if you go to another person to eat, they may very well not feed you. You know this instinctively. As such, you develop a bond that you don't even know you're developing. You develop a bond and need some type of companionship, a relationship with your caregiver, your guardian, and even your parents, because they anticipated your incompetence. And you grew up like this, years, decades just living like this, right? And even when you get a chance to break away from this, you always have this instinct. You have it down to a molecular level that you are a dependent, that you were a dependent for years, decades of your life with no choice, no capacity. Even if you wanted to stand up on your own 2 feet and make your own way, you just didn't have it in you. And so you remained subservient, dependent. And most people won't realize that their inherited dependency on companionship is really an instinctive survival mechanism that will ultimately drive you straight into legal matrimony and the dark dimension, because you are so dependent on the dependency, the companionship, the relationship that you have with the people that you depend on, that you cannot otherwise experience a reality where there's no one to depend on you have no one to depend on. It is deep, it is inherent, and quite frankly, it's troubling. Sometimes even the acknowledgement comes in terms of, or the acknowledgement of this companionship, this survival, this basic inherited survival human instinct of dependency, comes in terms of shared trauma and harbored bad memories. Think of a situation where a counterpart brings up like something that happened back in the day, an argument, a disagreement, a decision that you made where you decided to, take the leadership and got something wrong. And when you look back at it, you realize that you only got it wrong because your counterpart was resistant, right? Just so she could prove something, something, something. But she never went back and made the correction. She just let the problem linger. And for years and years and years, she just keeps bringing it up, keeps bringing it up, keeps bringing it up, right? Thereby, and she is thereby acknowledging that incident, your involvement in that incident and its significance, right? And you will, either you will acknowledge it in the same way as significant, or you will dismiss it as insignificant. Either way, the acknowledgement is part of the companionship and part of the dependency, what they may call trauma bonding, right? So you and your wife trauma bond all the time. You trauma bond over bad memories, and then you bond over good memories, right? And you don't even know you're doing it. You'll argue over the same thing over years and years and years and years, and then be intimate, right? And you won't even know that you're doing it, you know? When a counterpart brings up something from the past for you to fight about, she's thereby acknowledging that thing's significance, right? And this is just another way of demonstrating the desire for camaraderie, for acknowledgement, for companionship, and thereby demonstrating dependency that stems generations worth of dependency. It's not just you, it's your parents were dependents, their parents were dependents, dating back Lord knows how long, right? All mechanisms of delusions, fantasy, or hallucinations, right? They they manifest themselves through dependency, right? They manifest themselves through dependency because you are just as alone as I am. This is really what I'm trying to tell you. The desire for companionship is just an indication for dependency, but in truth, you know you can't depend on those people. You couldn't depend on your parents for your whole life. So you're looking for someone to depend on. And if your parents couldn't be there for you to depend on for your whole life, what makes you think this stranger is going to too? You are just as alone as I am. And only you have some you have this desire, this hope, right? And you are waiting for it to pay off somehow, right? You are waiting for it to deliver these tremendous results, but I want you to know that it will not. It will only send you into the dark dimension and ruin you. But I will not delude myself. I will not delude myself further. And it was this that made me remember the promise that I had made to myself. A promise not only to remain single, to remain uncommitted, right? To remain free, not just in my mind, but in my spirit, in my body, to remain free from the inherited dependency that even I was born with, right? To let go of the desire for companionship and even acknowledgement. To just stop sharing memories with these people and picking up fights and picking up scabs from old wounds. It's just not necessary. The promise that I made to myself is not only to remain single, right, with all that comes with it, but also to remain grounded in reality and appreciate reality for what it really is, a cure. Reality is the only cure for delusion, for pretense, for fiction, and the distorted lies of both counterparts and knee benders. This is why I choose to remain here, in reality, as a self centered, selfish, self proclaimed narcissist. Well, more than self proclaimed, I'd say I'm pretty much diagnosed. And remember, this cure is not just only available to you, right? It is the only way to salvation. It is the cure of reality that led me to my urologist's office, to the fertility clinic where I now keep my frozen billion sperm, and then got my vasectomy. I am cured, I think. I believe. I'd like to believe from the desire of companionship and and the dependency that it brings. And the cure is very clearly reality. I face reality, and every time I try to delude myself in hoping something that I know is completely impossible, all I have to do is look at the statistics. 99% of people either get married or have kids by the time they're 60. 20% of, everybody cheats. They cheat 20% of the time, right? 45% of the kids are unplanned or perhaps even unwanted. These statistics don't lend themselves to hope. And this is the reality of humanity. And I face it every day. And I face it every day because it is the cure that keeps me sane. And I'd like you to keep this cure in mind as we read today's edification entitled The 10 Reasons Why Being Single Can Be an Excellent, rather it should have been, is an excellent option. And it will be an excellent option for you. As is becoming my custom lately, I really sifted through what I thought would be just the important parts for the article itself. I'm preferring to structure my videos in my own way rather than labor through tons of even like some useful information that doesn't really anchor the point, right? So I'm just going to go with the information that anchors the point. But I will reference it thoroughly so those people who want to see if in fact you are losing any information or any value from what I'm leaving out, I assure you you're not. The concern with this, or at least the only downside to this, to this method, is that I have to read the article a few times and then decide what I'm keeping and what I'm leaving out. It's an additional step of labor. It takes a few more minutes, but it's absolutely worth it in the end product, where you just skip through a lot of stuff that you're just gonna read through that you're just gonna fly through anyway. So I'm just gonna go make the point that I wanted to make. But if you are looking for the expanded version, I assure you You're not going to get much more from it, but there's the link to the article. You're more than welcome to go read those extra 2 pages of useless information. The title of the article, as mentioned before, is 10 Reasons Being Single Can Be an Excellent Option for You. Number 7 is I Can See Whomever I Want. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that with some detail. This was published on the 27th of June 2023, not too long ago, by Dr. Teresa E. Di Donato. Teresa E. Di Donato. Please forgive me for mispronouncing your name, Dr. Teresa. But this comes from our friends over at psychologytoday.com. I've been reading a lot of their information and it's very insightful. And some of it can be quite useful, others can be quite repetitive, but always very well written. These are very skilled writers, by the way. And I've given credit to these PhD types. I'm not getting my PhD. I'm not getting my PhD. There was a moment where I had a desire to do it, and now here I am talking about how degrees are useless when I was the one, telling people that, you need a degree. For all I know, I probably need that PhD, Dr. the Ancient One. I like the sound of that, or Dr. Supreme. Dr. Supreme sounds just right to me. Okay, I need a PhD. Oh, man, I should have just left that thought alone. Fine, I'm gonna come back and call myself Dr. Supreme. Oh, that's an awesome name. But I don't want to be like a fake doctor. You know what I mean? I don't want to be like, call myself Dr. Supreme like the rapper. I want to be a real Dr. Supreme. Oh, now I gotta go and get a PhD. Man, I don't have time for this. On top of all the things that I'm doing, let's continue. Let's continue. The key points to this article are: 1, about 1/3 of adults are single, some by choice and some involuntary. By the way, the key points are right at the beginning, right? So I kept that part and then skipped a chunk right after that and then went straight to the points, which had their own introduction, which we're going to read also. So there was like a lot of information going on, and I had to sift through what was really critical for us to know. But it was quite a lengthy article. Not only that, it was an article that I liked. There were other shorter articles that had less points, but I wanted these points and I didn't want the other information. So, I'm just justifying myself because I don't like the feeling of maybe not being considered thorough in my dispositions and depositions. So I just want everyone to know that the information is good in as far as it comes from this particular source. Different sources might see things different ways, but I don't have those sources available to us today, so we use what we have always. But indeed, 1/3 of American adults are single, some by choice and some involuntarily so. Very interesting. Involuntary, you know who. Being single affords people time and energy they might not otherwise have. This is absolutely true. Singlehood allows people to control how they live their lives, 100%. Singlehood can protect people from the problems and pains from being in a relationship. Let me take you back to something that I said in the opening monologue, where I said, and I said it and I didn't even realize I was saying it. I said to the counterpart that we would begin a type of partnership. This was before partner became that thing. I was genuinely seeking a not just romantic relationship, but a functional one, right? A functional relationship. And I remember saying that, you know what? In a functional partnership, your problems are my problems, and my problems are your problems. And this is true of every relationship. This is really what you're saying when you get into a relationship. You're saying that give me your problems and I'll give you mine, and together we'll find a way to make happiness. And I remember saying that, and at the time it sounded good. But in hindsight, I realized that that's exactly what I got. Her problems. Her problems. Nothing but her problems. And one of the things that you get by not being single is the additional stress of other people's problems. When you look at your problems, you might be able to contain them somewhat. But other people's problems are always gonna come in form of variables. You won't know where what is coming from and where it's gonna hit you next. But you know it's coming. So just remember that your problems are your problems, but you get into a relationship, their problems are now your problems too. Singlehood offers important life benefits. Let's continue. Whether by choice or circumstance, singlehood comes with opportunities that for some make it quite appealing. I'm one of those. These opportunities are recently identified in two studies out of Greece that examined the perceived benefits of about 260, study 1, and approximately 600 in study 2. Greek speaking people who had, at one point in their adult lives, been single. I'm not gonna read Greek surnames. No, no, no. I'm just gonna embarrass myself, but there they are. Maybe I should try it. Apostolou and Christophorou. I knew I shouldn't have read Greek names. I always mess up Greek names. Yeah, there's some people who think apostrophe is a Greek philosopher. But anyway, the benefits include the following. Here we go. So there is the test group, the test subject. The information I left out was actually a repetition of this and some other information on the side, right? It was just more detailed. That's why I skipped it. And that's why I included this in this edification. Number one, we're talking about the benefits. I have more time and I can use it the way that I want. This is true. This is true. When I started making these videos, I was determined to only go for an hour. Now I'm determined to go until I'm done. The video is always done when the video is always done. Sometimes I rush through the ending because I have nothing more to say, but I really try to put everything in that I can into the opening monologue and then end as soon as the article ends because it's just reflecting on the article at that point. But by then, I think I've really laid my case out and made my point. But I have that free time. I have that time to do whatever I want. I can move my schedule around. I can move the running around, the work around, whatever, whatever. Readjust my 16-hour day and, of course, 8 hours of sleep to do the things that are appealing and important to me. And this is one of them. This is really one of them. And I don't think I'd be able to do that if I hadn't, one, gotten a vasectomy, number two, made and kept the promise that I made to myself, right? And getting the vasectomy was to ensure that I keep that promise. Man, I'm not interested in going into a relationship, especially if I slip up over an incident, an intimate incident. Now I'm stuck with this person 21 years. This was the most strongly endorsed advantage of being single. Maintaining a romantic relationship is a major time investment. You have no idea how many whatever, what do they call these things? Gender reveal. Gender reveal. I was going to say child reveal. But that's the birth, when the child comes out. But the gender reveal, I don't know how many gender reveals you're going to go to, man. I don't know how many gifts you're going to buy for her best friends, her best friend's boyfriends, her best friend's new boyfriend, her best friend's anniversary with the new best friend or the new boyfriend. Everybody's having anniversaries, man, birthdays, and all kinds of things. You're going to buy gifts for all those people. And then you still have to attend the party. So it's not enough to just buy your way out of it. Here, take the gift. Can I have my free time? No. No, no, no. You gotta deliver the gift in person. Like you can't even post it, man. You know, it is a tremendous investment in time and low return on that investment. Singlehood allows people, I beg your pardon, the chance to use their time as they wish and to pursue their own interests with flexibility. 100%, 100%. You're not going to hear a disagreement, not one from me. All that is absolutely true. In fact, it was the end of the romance wars for me, the end of the relationship for me that allowed me to go get my vasectomy and then allowed me the time to, to ponder the strategy effectively, to then think, wait a minute, not just get the vasectomy, freeze your sperm first. Keep your options open. Be smart. You don't want the reversal to be your only option. You want to have a plan B, a cheap one, a cheap one. And so yes, it wasn't just the investment in time, it was also being able to think without considering the position of another person or other people clearly, you know. That's that's helpful stuff. That's effective. It's powerful. It's useful. Having the time and then the time to think, you know, that's also very useful. And you should think about that, using your time to not just talk and act and watch things. Just turn things off and just think. Just walk around your house, in and out of rooms, just not even thinking about the room, just thinking your own thoughts, clearing your head. And then you'll be able to come to right decisions, as I'm sure I did. Our second point is I can focus. This is just what I was saying about clearing your mind. But that being said, I did read the article before, so I'm commenting it for the first time as I see it now. But yeah, I can focus. I really can focus. Being in the romance wars, you don't really realize how many thoughts are sent running in and out of your mind. Thoughts about this, thoughts about that, thoughts about that. And then there's the escalations. Whatever the situation was yesterday, you can be sure it's going to escalate. Somebody's going to say something, add an insult, add some drama, remove an insult, add an apology, remove an apology. And things are going to escalate, and those escalations really are distractions. You ever be called out of work to go to your child's school to find out that the kid was fighting, and by the time you get there, the issue has already been resolved. You spend an hour at work, 2 hours at work, trying to get time off just to get there, and these two are now friends again. And to find out that they were fighting over nothing. You ever seen a situation like that? Where now I'm sitting there looking at one of the misfits, telling me this drama with their kid and how the baby mama is stuck in the hospital with her mama. And I'm just like, you know what? Just go. I'm going to let you go just so you don't tell me the story. I just don't want to hear the details. And I know you're determined to tell me each and every single one of them. I will not acknowledge you. I will not acknowledge the value of your existence in my life in this moment. Get out. Go and deal with your crying kid, and I hope they whipped him. I hope they whipped that kid because you should have got a vasectomy before you got in this situation. Man, these people got no focus. You bend the knee, there goes your focus. People want to improve themselves, making the chance to focus on a particular benefit of being single. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Making the chance to focus a particular benefit of being single. No doubt that personal growth, career, and or otherwise can be enhanced by the opportunity to streamline your focus. Indeed, Careers are improved by demonstrating focus. You just become so much more effective. And you don't realize it. Just by thinking more clearly, you act more concisely. People that are distracted are just like, think about someone who's always dropping things. That's what distractions do. You try to move something on this side, but you're wearing a bag and your bag bumps something else, spills some coffee, destroy your computer while you're at it, and delete critical files that the corporation needs, you know. And then you have to explain to corporate why this, oh, it was a mistake. Can't you guys take a joke? Corporate does not take jokes. Corporate is not where the jokes are told. If they're calling you over some damaged property, I would apologize profusely and offer to repay it, right? Just as a kind gesture, they don't need your money, they just need the documents that you destroyed, right? Because that's what they do. They collect and correlate documents and then make investments based on those guesses and patterns, right? So you destroy those documents, it's a problem. Stop destroying computers, people. You need those documents. You need those documents, right? For some people, singlehood is desirable because it supports focus that they need to pursue important goals. This is true. This is true. Whatever goals you're going to achieve in life, you don't want to be in the zone, man. You're in your zone, you're killing it. The stream is going, you're flowing, you're flowing. You know this is going to be that video for you that lets it all out. And then here's somebody coming talking about when are you going to be done streaming? Oh, I can't do that. I cannot do that. You don't break my train of thought, my concentration. And then I say, okay, I'm done streaming. What do you want? Oh, nothing. I just wanted to know if you wanted to order something to eat. You interrupted my stream over a plate of rice. I'm not accepting that. I'm not accepting. And I'm new to the stream thing, but I'm realizing that in order for you to be able to pursue this important goal of spreading the message of the vasectomites, freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy, I can't be having people coming in and out of here. Absolutely not. Right? But that being said, maybe if I hadn't got a vasectomy, I might be feeling different, right? I might be looking forward to coming home and being interrupted, by all kinds of things. Number three, I'm in charge of me, 110%. When you make your problems her problems and her problems your problems, you really also say that you are giving up some measure of autonomy, right? Now, she can demand your time by simply bringing up a problem. Whether you see it as a problem or not, but because her problems are not your problems, you have to deal with it. You have to deal with whatever she says from the point of view that it's a problem. So you need to now find some solutions to her nonsense, even if the solution is just sitting there and listening, which is a waste of time. Relationships require compromise. I hate compromise. They require compromise and adjusting to a partner's needs. Oh, you see, that's the problem right there. Like, your needs are not my needs. This is something else that I realized when I was in the romance wars. Like, I really have completely different needs to the counterpart, completely different needs and priorities. And trying to find a compromise to let those needs meet in the middle. I needed some gaps between those words. It's just too much to do, man. And that middle is not where you want to be. It's really not a place that's full of all the things that you like. It's really where you lose all the things that you like. And I mean, I get it. You could have kids with this person. What's the cost of a motorbike compared to a child, or a quad bike, or some jet skis compared to a child? The jet skis, the bikes, the quad bikes, that stuff's all gotta go compared to the needs of the child. But you get a vasectomy. Oh, you're in 100% control of your life every single moment. And it's going to be very difficult to let go of that control. I mean, somebody's going to need to really justify that. Like, it's one thing that I have the inclination for companionship, which is rooted in dependency. But I'm against dependency. And if I'm against dependency, I have to be against companionship also, which I'm fine with, which I'm actually fine with. But that compromise, man, that's a real thing. That's just letting go of things that you love just to find out that the counterpart, you ever seen a guy sell his motorbike, sell his leather jacket, get rid of all his helmets just for his counterpart to cheat. Just for a counterpart to cheat on him with somebody that has a motorbike, a helmet, leather, you know, um, that's well cared for, and you're just standing there like, you made me give up all my stuff just so that you could go cheat on me with somebody that has all my stuff. I mean, that type of contradiction really gets to me about these situations. And it's like, it must be so frustrating, selling the jet skis, the quad bikes. Just then, you see her cheating on you, having an affair, going to ride jet skis and quad bikes. And it's like, you made me get rid of these things because you said they were a distraction. And now there you go, looking for the distraction, you know and then there you are, and she'll tell you, no, 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 you can't have these things that she's attracted to and other women will be attracted to, but the other guy, he can have those things and then she can be attracted to him, and there you are, stuck, bending the knee, with no control over your life, just doing nonsense, compromising, and adjusting to your partner's needs when your needs are completely different. Then eventually you get frustrated, you know. When you're single, there is no need to check in or report on what you're doing. I didn't check in or report on what I was doing anyway, and I think that was the problem from my side. No, no. Especially if you're not pregnant or haven't had any of my kids and I don't have no biological connection to you. I'm not sending you messages telling you what I'm doing or where I am. Not at all. If I do, I'll tell you eventually when I get home. But while I'm still doing it, I'm not inclined to say nothing about nothing. You know, if you suddenly decide to work until midnight, which I may, order takeout, maybe not so much, or binge watch a new series, I'm definitely not doing that. You can with no accommodations and no apologies. For some people, singlehood is desirable because you're the one in charge. No one else is making demands or telling you what to do. Yeah, man. Her problems are your problems are her problems, and both of you are in it. And both of you want completely different things. The difference is you have the capacity to get the things that you want, and she needs someone to give them to her. And if you think I'm wrong, I'd like you to prove me wrong. Go ahead, demonstrate for me a counterpart who went and bought her own house. Cash outright, upfront. I'm not talking about taking on a debt for 35 years. Anyone can do that. I mean, just go ahead and buy the house and own it forever. I'm steady. Number five. Oh no, no, sorry. Number four is I'm not getting hurt. Breakups are painful. One advantage of stable singlehood is that you can avoid the emotional upheaval that comes with ending a relationship. This is very true. This is very true. Breakups are a problem because you have to constantly strategize for other people and for these two people. And when the breakup ends, what you find yourself is that you're in the middle of a game that requires a two-person strategy. And so you're trying to double up on both sides to keep the thing going, but you cannot, and it's going to collapse, right? So there's the emotional side of it, and then there's the practical side of it, and that collapse is always going to demonstrate itself financially. So even if you weren't sharing bills, but you were sharing responsibilities. So you might make it out financially, but then you find like things that you had become accustomed to not having done or not to not having to do are just simply not getting done. Right? So things like what you'll see is there's a point where counterparts, their house gets filled with trash, right? It just piles up with trash, and you're just like, why don't you just take out the trash? Because the man needs to take out the trash. And while the man was taking out the trash, she was multitasking with something else. So during trash time, taking out the trash, she's already got an activity that she's doing. So she can't be in two places at once. They love to multitask, but they can't be in two places at once. So now she has to let something go because her hands are full over here and the trash is piling up. It's very coincidental, but it happens so often. Sometimes you find like divorced women just living in filthy houses, and you're just like, when you were married, your house was clean. Yeah, she had the time because the husband was filling in the gaps, running to the store to do this, to do that, to get this, to get that. Now, if she's the one running to the store, who's going to be at home putting things together or taking things apart? Number five, I'm steady. It's not just breakups that are tough. The finding and forming of new relationships can be emotional roller coaster, and once formed, they can be challenges that cause stress and any number of problems that can pop up on any given Sunday or any given day rather. Singlehood allows for a steady, peaceful way of living. There's two ways to look at this issue of stability. You have to become a stable person. You really have to become a stable person, where if you're like me in a position of leadership and people are looking at you, even people that are above you will look to you as an example for leadership. Because they're like, oh, well, he employed this strategy. I might try that strategy too, right? Because while we're not in the same position, we are of the same mind, and that is being responsible to others. Of course, he's responsible for more than just me, but we are all responsible for others. And you have to be a stable person when you're responsible for other people. Willingly or unwillingly responsible, you have to be a stable person. You have to come in literally the same every day. While everybody comes in fluctuating, people come in having not slept, having not ate, having not exercised, having not prepared anything, and you have to come in absolutely the same. No matter how low they are, how high they are, you need stability. And if you're really going to be successful as a single bachelor, you're going to need to be stable. You're going to literally need to live like a married man. We need to work out the amount of hours that a married man spends at home, and that's the amount of time that you need to be spending at home. So if they're not going out on a Friday night, you need to be not be going out on a Friday night, right? Because married men do live a little bit longer. I think it's like a 3 year difference, right? But that 3 years is worth something. I'd rather have those 3 years than not. But more than that, if you live this way, a stable, calm life as a bachelor, it means you're not spending as much money. Even if you do eat takeaways every once in a while, if you're eating them at home, you're still saving more money. Stability is the only way for you to make it. Otherwise, you're just going to be out there chasing one counterpart after another, and you're just going to seek and find problems. Really, you need to be stable. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You can ruin your bachelorhood by doing too much. You can ruin your vasectomite life Even as a vasectomite, you can ruin it by doing too much, overextending yourself, spending too much money, catches intimately transmitted diseases, right? All kinds of things. Just by doing too much when what you really need is stability. The problem is you won't have no counterpart to fill up those hours with. You're going to have to do that by yourself. Day after day after day, weeks, months, years, just filling up your hours with productivity. Eventually, something's gonna happen for you. Number six, I'm calm. And I find that I'm a little bit more calm when I'm not dating. For some people, a primary appeal of singlehood is the chance to avoid the fighting and arguing. So many arguments. I'm so sick of those arguments that might come with romantic relationships. You know the most common argument in relationships. Who's that message from? Who you talking to? Who's texting you? Who's calling you? Who's this? Who's that? You know? And some guys will see that and then still proceed and get married thinking, well, I'm winning because we are competing over her, so I'm winning. Then you get guys like me. You start getting texts from other people, that's when you start getting texts from me. Really that simple, you know? But man, I don't want to fight. I don't want to argue for this nonsense. Most of it is just about, teaspoons, loading dishwashers, and folding towels. Just empty nonsense, right? And no one is giving you the silent treatment or offering you unwelcomed advice. Better to be single and happy than to be in a relationship that's fraught with tension. Can I tell you something about this unwelcome, unsolicited advice? These counterparts will give you, so you'll say left, she'll say right. You'll say up, she'll say down. Right? You'll say big, she'll say small. And she's saying that because you said big. I've literally put this to the test. I've came to a counterpart and said, hey, I like blue. And she said she liked purple. Then I went and said, I like purple. She instinctively said she liked blue. She didn't even think about it. It occurred to me that she was then saying the opposite of things. And I'd say to her, you always say the opposite of what I said. And then she'd say, no, I'm not. And I'd say, you're doing it right now. And she'd be like, am I? And I was like, yeah, I say this, you say that. I say this to that, you say that. I say that you say the opposite of what I say. You say no, I'm not. Thereby proving my point. You don't even know that you're doing it. She thinks she's having a conversation with you. She thinks that's how conversations go. That agreeing is an indication of a lack of intelligence. You know, this is why they'll get like math questions wrong. She'll look at your answer and think, oh, well, I need to get a different answer in order to be correct. And of course, she will mess it up completely. And if she does the equation and get to the same outcome as you, she'll write a different answer anyway. Because her mind is telling her, no, I gotta go the other way. I gotta go the other way. This is why they're always walking into a situation where a man's gotta pull her out of danger. Right? And then she'll say, no. You're controlling, like, hey, you almost got hit by a bus. I had to pull you out of the way to save your life. And you're saying that pull is an indication of control. You want to live your life. You almost didn't have a life. Right? You almost did. These are the kind of things you fight over in these relationships. Right? And they really believe that they're adding something to the relationship. But here's the problem. When you say left and she says right and you see there's nowhere to go right and you go left anyway, she's going to be so angry that you're not listening, you're not being attentive, you're not hearing her out, you're not responding. And she's going to make a big deal out of that, right? And then if you mention the fact that she's wrong and what she was doing was like, it's just going to be a problem and a problem and a problem and a problem. Now, personally, at this point in life, I could care less. But when she's there, living there with you, you can't kick her out. You can't, like, you're in this commitment, this relationship. Your fates are now intertwined, right? You you have to compromise. You have to capitulate, even when you know she's wrong. Even when you know she's wrong. This is what husbands do. They just capitulate, man. Because it's either you capitulate or now you just have this argument over nothing for days, man. Some of these arguments, like she'll bring it up 20 years later. Like, you fought for this nonsense for days, only for you to realize that if you did turn right and crash the car, it was gonna. So it's either you ignore her and you don't crash a car and she brings that stupidity up for days and days and days, or you do and you crash the car and now you have to keep reminding her about her incompetence, which is just as bad. Because now you're just as abusive as you had been had you just ignored her. You know you're wasting your time with these people. And the worst part of that is they believe they're nonsense. You know, if you thought they were being strategic, manipulative, Machiavellian, with layers and layers of deception, no, they're just confused. Just confused and cannot read and cannot count and don't comprehend reality. And you have to fight through that every single day. And it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Take it from somebody who's been out of the situation for a long time. Man, I don't miss the arguments. I don't miss the waste of time. Just as you're about to go to sleep, right? You go to sleep at 10 o'clock. 9:57. Can we talk? No. No, we can't talk. I literally got my eyes closed. No, it'll only take 2 minutes. Right. And you say 2 minutes because I only have 2 minutes. Do you remember that time? Oh my God. Now she's got to go through the details of that time. The details are not going to take 20 minutes. But you're in it now. You're in it now. And as soon as she's done talking, you're like, so you're done. Can I go sleep now? And she's like, no, respond. Like, what? No, 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 no. You were the one that said you wanted to talk. I didn't say I want to talk. You wanted to talk, you're not talking. Right? Let's move on. Nope, not having any of that. Now you don't want to communicate. Oh, what a waste of time. What levels of sheer incompetence. And you got to deal with that, man. By the way, ladies, if you're wondering why your husband signed those divorce papers and didn't fight harder when you pulled away, it's because he didn't want to. So, number 7, I can see whomever I want. Being single allows people to flirt and date to the extent they want to, if they want to. This social and intimacy freedom is not exclusive to singlehood, but many romantic partners prioritize monogamy and intimacy fidelity, making the freedom to have casual relationships a standout feature for some people who prefer being single. This must have been a counterpart who wrote this, and she is out of her mind. If you think that I'm gonna pay bills, pay rent, pay cars, pay medical, pay for clothes, pay for food, pay for drinks, pay for entertainment, and let another guy come in here and do what he wants to do, nah, 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 no, 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 no. Intimacy infidelity, especially since I'm offering all this and all you offer in return is intimacy. Now that's a problem, you see. If you offered something more in terms of tangible things other than intimacy, I would understand that. I would understand that, you know. But you offer me as a man intimacy, and I want an intimate partner, right? An intimate partner. You are taking your part of the deal and giving it to somebody else. The thing that I want, you're now giving it to somebody else. But the things that you want, I'm giving it to you. But I can't give those things to somebody else. So I can't go now start a new life with a new woman in a new house. But this guy can come in and put his feet up on my coffee table, sitting in his boxes watching my TV after he's had my woman, drinking my non-alcoholic beer, tasting talking about, oh, this tastes like the real thing. Shut up. No way, man. There's no way. There's no way. You know, unless it's like a once-off thing and off you go, right? And I'm talking as myself now, as the Phantom Menace. Okay. But if I'm the guy paying all these bills, if I'm the guy caring for these kids, these step kids, whatever the situation that you're in, and some other guy is coming in getting the goods, why doesn't he pay the bills? Hey man, he's so good enough. Why doesn't he pay the bills? No, 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 no. That being said, that being said, if you're not living with somebody, you're paying your own bills, living your own life, running your own schedule, and we have no commitment, no ties, I could care less. I could care less. Because for me, as a person who's not looking to date, who's not looking to have a relationship, who's not looking to have a biological tie, the chances of you seeing me twice for intimacy are almost null and void. Because the second time, it's like, okay, well, so what are we doing? The third time, I'm going to get questions about, so what are we? And in between all of that, I have to coordinate. Like, we have to plan together, we have to structure together. I have to listen to you, tell me about your day, your schedule, about your business, about what you need to do, what you don't need to do. No, 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 no. This is exactly why I'm out. I don't need to plan with you or schedule with you. I don't need to organize nothing. And I don't want to. You know what I mean? So you know, this thing is really a problem, dating as a single person, Because a lot of people go from friendships to dating to want a relationship, right? And I don't offer none of that. I don't offer no friendship, no dating, no relationship. Definitely not the dark dimension of legal matrimony. I'm not doing that, right? But for a lot of people to get the intimacy, they need to offer some type of commitment. For the simple reason that she may very well get inseminated and pregnant. For the simple reason that she may very well get inseminated and pregnant, she may demand some level of commitment, right? But now, as a vasectomite, that's out the window. That's absolutely out the window, right? There's no need for that. Now, one of the things that I wanted to discuss and I was concerned about was the intimacy with like married people. Strategically, I don't suggest that as a thing because like married people can get really extreme about their wives. But from a moral point of view, I could care less. I really could care less. Especially as a person, like I said, I'm not dating, I'm not doing relationships, no dark dimension, none of that. Chances are your wives, your girls, your children, your daughter, your niece, and I say children by legal age children, 21 and over, even people over 21 is somebody's child. How do you think she came into this world? How do you think she turned 21? Somebody raised her, right? So even these 21-year-old, underage 21-year-old kids, I remember that video, underage 21-year-old. Give me a break. Even under those circumstances, you really I'm not seeing those people more than twice. I don't have to. Because twice is gonna be a thing. 3 times, then we're a relationship. Really, you see somebody 3 times, then you're in it. I mean, you could be intimate with them 1 time and they'll be pregnant, but as a vasectomite, and I don't mean like 3 times, like you see them, like, we date, we're intimate a few times, then we come back and we're intimate a few more times, then we come in. No, no, no. I mean, like, you got to be intimate with her once, twice. So if you're intimate with her twice in one day, that's it. You're done. You never see that person again. But if you have to be intimate with her over like a long space of time, so it's like you do it on Saturday and then you're gonna do it next week Saturday. Nah, that's way too much. That's way too much compromise, way too much planning, way too much coordinating. I gotta coordinate with you for a week just to get like 5 minutes of interaction. I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that, you know. But I'm going to tell you, if you think that people aren't going to cheat, if you think there's no phantom menace, you're absolutely wrong. You've completely misjudged the situation. There is always a phantom menace. You know, the problem is with these phantom menaces is that they're not a real menace. Not like me. Not like me. Me, I'll be intimate with your loved one and face absolutely no consequences, neither for me or for her. The only real consequences will be heartbreak for you, but for me, it'll mean absolutely nothing. Not only that, you can be sure I'm never going to see this person again. You know what I mean? Because if we're not intimate twice on that encounter that same day, there's not going to be another second encounter later. There's no I'll be back next week. There's no next week. There's no next week. You know, the sun will not rise next week. At least, and if it does, I won't be there to see it. It's really just that simple when it comes to getting a vasectomy, right? And getting a vasectomy and then denouncing relationships as an invention altogether. That really puts you in a situation where, you know, too much intimacy is a problem. It's not just getting it, you know, and enjoying it. It's like getting it and then sustaining the process of getting it with this person. Now you're in a relationship. What's the point of that? What's the point of that? I can use my resources as I want to, along with time. Energy is a limited resources. Time, energy. Where did I hear that from? You know? I'm always talking about resources, skills, knowledge, wisdom, efficacy. These people are stealing ideas. But it's, you know what it is? It's not just stealing ideas. You're stealing people's language. You're stealing their flow. You know? If I hear you people talking about bending the knee, I'm gonna know, man. You're a thief of ideas and you're stealing mine. But here they are stealing another idea along with time and energy. Why don't you just add money while you're at it? Oh, that's right. We are talking about money. People who are single can choose how they want to spend their energy with more freedom than people in relationships. This is also true. They have fewer responsibilities. That's what we're talking about. And do not need to take care of anyone else. Oh, poetry, poetry, man. And do not need to spend any energy managing a relationship or nurturing a relationship or dealing with a romantic partner's personal problems. This is exactly what I was telling you about. My problems are her problems are not my problems, right? And I gotta put in all that time, all that energy, all those resources, my knowledge, my patience, my skills, my negotiation abilities, just for her to say, oh, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm right. Or nothing grinds me more than someone telling me maybe I'm right. I'm gonna, no, 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 no. Maybe? No, 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 no. I'm not the type of intellect that opens up to maybe. If you're going to say I'm not right, you're going to have to tell me why. You're really going to have to break that down for me. But you can't just add with a maybe and then dismiss me and then try to discredit me. No, 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 no. You have to come correct and then say what it is, right? Problems, man. Problems with these relationships. I spent the whole video talking about these relationships. I'm going to jump right to number 9. I'm excused from any undesirable activities, baby showers, nephews in prison, gender reveals from the niece who's always pregnant. You know what I'm talking about. One key advantage of singlehood is the ability not to do things that you don't want to do, things you might need to do to keep peace in a relationship. Yes, like buying her friends gifts for her boyfriend, who doesn't care, by the way. They just met, so now we all gotta buy gifts for this guy. Forget a partner's high school reunion. Oh, now I gotta remember when this person finished high school. And then I gotta be like every 5 years. Oh, this is the day you finished high school 10 years ago. This is the day you finished high school 25 years ago. Really, it doesn't matter. The teachers who taught you in high school, they don't even remember you. I'm telling you the truth. They have thousands of students, teachers over a lifetime. They don't remember any of you. Not even the naughty ones. They don't remember you. Forget a partner's high school reunion, it says. Yet another evening with your partner's friends, or your partner's annual family picnic. Oh, God. Doesn't that just sound miserable? Annual family picnic. And there's the grandmother farting because she doesn't care. She can't control her bowels. And you just gotta sit there, man. And then they bring the kids. You know what I hate? Is when they make the bachelor sit with the kids. So now, bachelors are generally cool people. Kids get along with them. Effectively, the kids and I are kind of in the same situation, right? I'm not responsible for anyone. They're not responsible for anyone. I got cool tech, that didn't cost me an arm and a leg. They have cool technology that they got for absolutely free. So we can sit and speak the same language. And I will speak, of course, with maturity, education, experience, and leadership, right? But they'll say the same thing. They want to just chill, have fun, get home, take a nap, eat, sleep, relax, right? Just in a different way, right? So there I am as a bachelor. They bring me in with younger bachelors, thinking that I'm going to be out of place. And then we're just getting along. You know what I mean? The kid will light up the PlayStation and I'll take him to school. The old ways, showing him moves he never knew, right? Or sometimes he'll take you to school and show you moves you never knew. It's nothing to me. I don't own a PlayStation, by the way. I sold it. Yeah, I just had to let that go. But, I hate it when they bring the kids over to the bachelor because it's a test. They think you're going to flounder. And then you nail it and then they get upset. Oh, why the kids like him? So the kids like him, the men like him, the women like him. Who doesn't like this guy? Like, I'm a bachelor, man. I ain't got no enemies. I don't have any enemies. Why would I have enemies? I'm single. You have enemies, and those enemies are called ex-boyfriends, and you're gonna meet them at the family picnic. Oh, that's the worst when the ex-boyfriend, the baby daddy, somebody comes to the picnic. And there they are moving to the side, having private conversations while you're stuck there playing with the kids. Is there anything more insulting than dating someone? These people are insufferable, man. Single people don't have these obligations, thank God. Singlehood lets you be in control of your social time, all your time. Number 10, manage my eating. Oh, this is a very big one. One interesting advantage that some people identify with being single is the chance to regulate their eating so you don't have to eat anymore. No need to conform to your partner's habits or preferences. Single people can diet or indulge without scrutiny or the imposition of others' needs. This is the last point right here. There's more, I'm sure, that continues, but I don't have any more slides. That is, in fact, the last and third slide. But yes, this is the situation. This is the situation. There's so many benefits to being single, and I know I'm gonna read more of these. And you must say, "Oh, but ancient one, you've read a list like this before." Yeah, there's millions of these lists and articles of everybody coming out with their testimonials. And as the years go, I'll probably get through many of them. Right? You write an article, I might read one of yours too. But indeed, this is an indication of a person who doesn't want to be dependent. When you see these 10 reasons and the key takeaways, what you see are people who want self determination and they see the value of self determination. But not only that, this list also highlights the downside of the romance wars. And these are even some of the good relationships that end up in this way, you know. But if you're the kind of person who, like me, who's made that promise to yourself to just stay out of this thing, I'm not saying that you won't be intimate. No, 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 no. I never said that. I never said I won't be intimate with anyone. What I said was I can be intimate with anyone and have no consequences. But as for dating and relationship, to me, that sounds like a consequence. You know, it sounds like I'm free and now enduring a consequence for which I don't need to. Even if a counterpart says no to my advances, right? What's it to me? Really, what's it to me? You're not gonna get pregnant, you're not gonna have my kids, none of you are. Ever. So really, I have to be honest with you, it's really nothing to me. It really is absolutely nothing to me. Intimacy, how it happens, whether you married her, whether you didn't marry her, whether you committed to her, all that means nothing to me, but I know it means the world to you, right? And I'm going to tell you that I don't really care one way or the other. But what I will do is maintain the promises that I've made to myself, and I suggest that you do the same, wherever that takes you. Now, the only promise I remember making very clearly was that I would not date and be in a committed relationship. No dating, no situationship. In fact, you may never see me twice intimately. Like we could be intimate one time and that would be it. In fact, this is exactly what I'm thinking about. I don't foresee ever being intimate twice with anyone. I don't foresee the point. Because the first time, okay, fine, fine. It is what it is. The second time, we have to call each other and plan it and agree on the plan. Now that sounds a lot like a compromise. And a compromise is nothing more than a relationship. Right? It's nothing more than a relationship. You compromise your time, you compromise her time, you keep compromising, and eventually you compromise your freedom and you're right in the dark dimension. Right? You make a promise yourself to stay single and you break that promise. You know what you're doing? You're compromising. And that compromise will become hypocrisy. And hypocrisy is always a lie. It's a contradiction and it's a lie. Right? And now you're lying to yourself, and of course, the circle of deception is complete. Right? The minute you lie to yourself, the circle of deception is complete. Right? Your lies have now come full circle, straight back to you. So if you've made this promise, and any promise to yourself, promise to lose weight, promise to make more money, promise to work harder, and you don't, all you've done is complete the circle of deception and lie to yourself. One of the things that I need to accept is, in fact, that there will be no companionship. Even like a friendship with benefits. Like you have a friendship with benefits with someone for like years. No, no, no. Like even something for like a month is too much, man. For the commitment and promise that I've made to myself, that type of thing stretches way too far. It stretches way too far. You know, a month is like way too far. I mean, I said no dating, no relationships, none of that. You know, intimacy is one thing, but Now I gotta call you back to make another plan. No, no, I don't know. I don't think I'll be doing that. I really don't think I'll be doing that. No, not under these circumstances. And I would rather forgo the first one if it meant that I don't get a chance to be called a second time. And it's not because like I don't find women attractive or I just don't want problems or I don't want the issues. It's just I made a commitment, right? I made a commitment. Not many commitments. I made one. One that's actually in my interest to keep. One commitment. And I said no commitments. So the commitment I made is to make no commitment, right? And a second date sounds like a big commitment to me. You know, promising to see each other again, and then for how long this time? A day? A full day? 24 hours? I mean, then what? 2 days? I don't know. To me, that just sounds like we're moving in the wrong direction. It just sounds like we're moving in the wrong direction, especially since I'm out of the romance wars. You know what I mean? And I'm just playing. The only part that I will play in the romance wars is that of the Phantom Menace. That's the only part. Oh, I'm gonna be so good at it too. I'm gonna be so good at it. But as for the knee bending, I will not bend the knee. I will not bend the knee. I will not capitulate. I will not compromise. And I'm not making no plans. You know, you can hear in my voice like I'm just as calm as I would be if I was drinking a cup of tea. And I'm not being like belligerent or harsh or anything. I'm just really going through mentally what the full scope of that promise actually means to myself. And every day I think I'm going to try and expand to see what limitations there are to this full scope. And there's people who's gonna say, "Oh well, no, not married women." Amen. Good luck with all that. I'm the master of the deceptive arts and the phantom menace. Your commitment means absolutely nothing to me. Only in as far as I don't get myself hurt. You know, but if there's a risk and that risk is too high, and I'm not doing it. I'm really not doing it. And I'm not trying to be, and I'm a person who's like strategically sound, at least I'd like to think I am. But this was never part of the plan. To say, no, this group of women, no, that group of women, this group of women goes here, that group, they all go into one basket. And they all have to maintain one standard. That's how standards are maintained. No exceptions, no compromises. Because otherwise, we're not maintaining standards. And the only question I have is, why didn't you just get a vasectomy? Why you gotta get married? Now you're asking me to overlook your incompetence and stupidity. You put yourself in a defensive position where you could not attack anyone, and everyone is attacking you for absolutely no reason. I'm telling you, you know, if I am intimate with your counterpart, it would be for absolutely no reason. But for you, it'll devastate you, because you're the guy paying all those bills, and I'm not paying for a damn thing. I promise you that much. Not 1 cent towards that medical fund, not 1 cent towards that college fund. You know what I mean? The best I can offer her are a few drinks for tonight. And then you have to think to yourself, honestly speaking, the entire commitment that you made to this counterpart is going to be valued at 2 drinks. 2 watered down drinks. That is the value of your commitment in your marriage. You're in a lot of trouble. And if you're hoping that I'm the guy who's going to come give you a solution, you're talking to a purebred narcissist. There's no way I'm going to make a commitment to you that gives you an advantage or peace of mind. I could care less about your advantages, your peace of mind, or your commitment. I'm a vasectomite. Your biological impulses, connections, and commitments mean absolutely nothing to me. The best thing you can do for yourself is go get a vasectomy. But if you're going to stay there as a knee bender, I'm going to leave you on the knees. It's the best thing I can do for you. keep you on your knees. Because you're going to just stand up and then just to go back down on your knees. Now you got both knees on the ground. I'm doing you a favor here. You're the one that's incompetent. And I'm telling you, like, I'm not going to feel nothing for you. You and your marriage? Good luck with all that, man. Good luck with all that. And worst of all, good luck trying to find me. I'm here every day. You don't even know what I look like. You think you're going to find my picture on the internet? You think you're going to Google me? What are you going to do, Google the ancient one? And what do you think I'm going to tell your girl my name is? John. I'll tell her I'm Little John. You know, with the hunchback? Yeah, Little John from Robin Hood. Taking from them, giving to myself. But this is the end of the video. And again, I want to thank you for your time and your attention and your patience as we delineate through this information. I hope that you have enjoyed it and found it useful. If you have, please hit the like button and support the video. Also, please feel free to share it with your friends or anyone that you think will enjoy or benefit also from this information. And if you are so inclined, please leave a comment to remain part of the conversation, and I will respond to anyone every message that I possibly can as speedily as I possibly can. I am the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, and before I sign out, again I want to say thank you, and I'd like to remind you to freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy, protect yourself, protect your seed, and protect that solitude. Thank you again. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.